a stay-at-home mom, you should be receiving a salary from your husband. If you are a stay-at-home mom, otherwise known as a non-compensated working mom, and you are married to a man, your husband, the compensated partner, should be paying for the uncompensated labor. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of pissed off men in the comments, but try to replace you. Try to replace a stay-at-home mom. You're going to be paying for a chauffeur, a chef, a nanny, a project manager for the house. In fact, recent data has shown that stay-at-home moms, non-compensated working parents, if you had to pay them a salary, it would be at least $175,000 a year. So if you are a non-compensated working mom, if you are a stay-at-home mom, you deserve a salary from your husband. I said it.
I don't know who these disconnected people are that y'all follow, and I don't know if they trolling, but I can tell that they probably don't have the thing that they're advocating for you to have. So, for example, I would assume, and I don't know for sure, and I'm gonna put a link in the description because I always like to give credit to the content creator. I would assume that this person probably is not a stay-at-home mother. Because if they did and they were in a loving relationship, and I also like to call it a successful marriage, because there's a difference between being married, there's a difference between being in a relationship and being successfully married. If they were in a successful marriage, not a partnership, but in a successful marriage, then they would understand that it's not about being compensated. It's about being a team. And there is no love, there is no desire, everything is transactional. And it's one thing to get into a situation where it is transactional because everything between humans are transactional, right? It means that I'm using you, you using me, but nobody is being misused, and that's the key. And so the thing that we don't really talk about anymore is the love while being equally yoked. Because one thing that I've understood over 21 years of being married, well, it'll be 21 years in June, but over 20 years of being married is that there is no mines and yours. I fulfill my role, you fulfill your role. And if we are a partnership, meaning that we both have a vested interest, not that you're my partner, but you are my wife, but we're in a partnership because we both have a vested interest in each other being successful, then that means that we not worried about the money aspect of it, right? I don't count pennies. I don't count time. I don't try to differentiate between, and I guess it's a little bit easier for me to have this conversation now because my daughter is 17 and she'll be 18 next year. But when we make decisions, or when I make a decision, because there is a hierarchy, even in a company, and let's say that you have a partnership, so you are in a startup company, right? Let's say that startup company is in its infancy and you come on, usually you take equity into the company. She has a vested interest in my success. She has a vested interest in her child's success. If you want to just completely look at it as transactional, then that means that if I'm paying you to raise the child, then it's my child, and you need to get out when I no longer have a vested interest, or I no longer have an interest in having you around. If I'm paying you, then that means that that's my product and you can get out and you have no real vested interest. But if we have a vested interest in everybody being successful, one of the reasons why she's a stay-at-home mother in the first place is because we both come to the conclusion that it's better to raise our child with our values instead of the values of whoever it is raising them in the daycare, the values of whoever it is raising them in latchkey, the value of whatever it is before they get out into the streets, before they get out into public school, before they get out into private school. We have a vested interest. So ideally, there is no real separation when it comes to resources. There's a separation when it comes to responsibilities, right? If you are the director of finance or you oversee finance and I oversee technology, it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It just means that we both trying to make sure that the company is successful so that when we sell the company or when we decide to go public with an initial public offering, and I like to look at it from a business perspective because this is the lens that she's talking about it from. When we both go public from a business perspective, we are going to prosper. The prosperity comes from the children being awesome. And if we are in it for the right reasons and we took our vows seriously, then that means that I'm not worried about the resources. I'm not going to pay. First of all, the number that she said is crazy. It's out of control. It's crazy. So I'm not even going to get into her reasoning. It's stupid. It's dumb. Nobody thinks from that lens, right? Nobody looks at it from that lens. But the other part about it is that I don't say, our budget that we had put together as we were raising our child, it was based off of our circumstance, right? So when we got way more money, then the budget expanded, but we also made sure that we were building these businesses together. And, she took on a role in the company. Her role in this relationship is much different than a role when she was just a stay-at-home mother, when my daughter didn't have the ability to fend for herself, when she wasn't driving. My daughter is driving now, right? When we, talking about her first going to school full time versus when our daughter was dependent on her mother 100% of the time. The whole idea of it was that what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. We didn't separate it. We still don't separate it. When she goes and she does whatever it is that she does, I don't sit there and say, well, I make all of the money. Nah, you fill a role, I fill a role, we take care of business and we both gonna prosper together. And so we are so used to building each other up. We are so used to wanting each other to be successful that we don't put a compensation number on it. You know what I'm saying? Because, and I'm gonna be honest with you, if we truly did put a compensation number on it and we looked at it from her lens, then my wife would be much worse off. You know what I'm saying? She wouldn't be even remotely in the same space that she's in financially if she wanted to look at it from that lens, because she benefited significantly by taking equity in what we're doing. And so, I look at these people that try to intersect, how they see things from a relationship perspective into the business aspect of it. And I know that they're not successfully married, or they can't be in a great space from that lens in both places, because the way that they look at it is wrong. They're looking at it completely wrong. When I go out, you know what I'm saying, and I go do something, or if I decide that I want to go buy a car, she don't sit there and say, hey, did you buy mine first? But by default, I want her to be great also, so I'm always going to take her into consideration. And chances are, I probably bought her dope car before I went and got mine. When I go get my car, she'd be like, man, you deserve that. Dog, you should get 2 cars. She not tripping off of that. But so many women try to look at it from this transactional lens because they're not getting what they want out of the relationship. And so now they've resorted to selling themselves. Now it's even resulting in conversations when it comes to the kids. People are so used to selling themselves. They so used to finessing themselves. They so used to getting in a situation that's not ideal, that they've now brought their trauma and their drama into the kids' lives. And she's talking about the husband should pay. Fam, most household incomes don't even exceed $70,000. What are you talking about? So are you saying that people shouldn't have children unless the man can pay her $170,000 plus? She said most women should be getting a salary. Most stay-at-home wives should be getting a salary. Okay, so I'm going to give you this salary, and then you can put it back in the bucket for both of us, because it's all one big pot that we're going to run up together, and we're going to make sure that we be successful. Cool. I'm going to give you this makeshift salary. It reminds me of like playing strip club. You know what I'm saying? You go and get a bunch of money and you throw it up, and she going to make it shake. She going to make it clap. Cool. So let me get all of this money back up so I can throw it back in the bank. We had a good time. Good job. I'm glad that you pretended like you was a stripper for the night. I got the best out of you and it didn't even cost me anything. If we want to play this game, you know what I'm saying? People genuinely need to like the person that they with, and they need to be equally yoked. They need to be going in the same direction. Everybody is in a different space. So when I see people that say now women need to be compensated for being stay-at-home moms, listen, go ahead and do your thing. Move on, get to the next one, because this one clearly is not for you. Again, I always like to make sure I give credit where credit is due, so that link will be in the description. Also, Teach Henley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments.